Thank you so much.
Oh, no, at last we meet, and I'm glad that we are.
Yes, this is fantastic. I'm Luther Kruger, Big Blue Sun Museum of Solar Cooking, based in Minneapolis. And I have the great privilege of talking to Deepak Gadhia from India, who has done some miraculous things. First I want to talk about the community or institutional sized cooking stuff that you're doing. But also I always ask everyone I talk to, what do you see the future for solar cooking? How should we promote it, both on the individual level and the groups? So, give me a little bit of the history. Remind me, because I know I read of it. What you've been doing in India.
Yeah. So basically, I think it's very important that people know how we all started and how we reached to this big institutional cooking systems, which have made me more famous and which has given me a lot of happiness. Actually, I'm still a big believer of small is beautiful. And I personally still am convinced that the future of the world and technology lies in appropriate technology and in a technology where people are using the cookers individually at personal level. And so we, both me and my wife, we studied in Germany, and we went back to India to help our country on invitation of our Prime Minister. And we wanted to help our country with the high technology, because we always thought that we are, as a India, not a developed country, because the developed countries are keeping the good technology to themselves and give us the obsolete technology. So when in Germany, I got a chance to study process and environmental engineering and did my master's by participating in a post-graduation course in MIT USA, which was offered in Germany. So I was like a high-tech engineer. Sure. And my wife did a PhD in genetic engineering. In those days, there were only a few of them in the world. And but when we went back, we were very fortunate that a German lady tried to tell us that, look, it's great that you're going back and you want to help your country, but what your country requires is not a high technology but appropriate technology. And that was the first time I heard the word appropriate technology. And we asked what it was, and when she told us it was a technology which was made with local material, with local people, it was not exciting enough or not sexy enough. Right. And we thought, yeah, it's a very good meaning German lady wants to help India, but she doesn't know what our India is and what our needs are. So we remained friends, but she planted us that seed of appropriate technology. And when we went back, unfortunately, we couldn't work with our Prime Minister because he got busy with his political problems. And I started working for a German company selling heat recovery systems in Southeast Asia, because that was my subject. But my wife, who was a Malaysian of Indian origin, had nothing to do. And she realized that what this German lady was telling us was true, that in India we had two different Indias. On one side we had Indias where cities like Mumbai, Delhi, Calcutta had everything what one think of: good roads, good infrastructure, good electricity, good drainage system, good public transport. But you go few hundred kilometers away, not even few hundred kilometers, few kilometers away, and then there would be places, villages with no roads, no water, no school, nothing. And then we shifted to a place called Vadodara, and at that time there were 3 consecutive droughts. And she was shocked to see that on one side there was not enough water for people to drink, but the people who had the money, they were washing their car twice a day, they were taking shower 3 times a day, and had green lawns. So she tried to tell people that, look, let us be a bit more conscious of what we do and not waste. And she was even further shocked when people told her, ma'am, there is enough water in the earth, you just have to go deep enough. And then she realized that though people were educated, they did not have these connections. They could not connect the dots, and they thought that resources was available endlessly, and it was just a question of technology with which one could solve it. And then she started what the German lady was telling, that, look, let's start with creating awareness. Let's try to talk of technology which are easy to build, easy to operate, easy to maintain. So she came to that conclusion, and she started an NGO called Eco Center ICNIR, which was an international center for networking, ecology, education, and reintegration. So these are the 4 areas she identified. Networking is not social networking. There was no Facebook, Instagram that time, but working with each other and learning with each other. And she was shocked to see that people who had knowledge were not willing to share, but actually keep it to themselves or to their family, and not share so that their children have that advantage over others. When it came to ecology, India was an emerging economy, and we thought ecology is a price you pay for economic growth. And the belief was, and even now is, that the wealth will percolate down once it is there. So this theory of percolation, where the wealth will percolate down. So that we realized was not true, because having lived and worked in Germany and having experienced the green movement, we we realized that we do not have enough time to go through make the same mistakes which the West is making. So she realized ecology is very important. And then she realized more important than ecology was education. Because still people are not aware of it. People do things not even knowing that they are creating harm. And then education is also empowerment, where you can actually now empower people to be on their own. And then reintegration is because, like I always say that when we were in India, I was more a Westerner because we thought West is the best. But having come here, we realized that we are not bad at all. We are actually equally good, if not better in many senses. We are more environment friendly and more spiritual because of our religion, philosophy, being a old culture. So he started giving me belief in my country, our culture, our thinking. And we wanted to now take good things from the West and help our countries, because there are, of course, very good things in the West which one can learn from. For example, hygiene, cleanliness, discipline, planning, technology. So we cannot just keep on saying, oh, West is bad because they are exploited us and they are. So I think there was this spirit of cooperation, and having lived in India, born in India and lived and worked in Germany, we wanted to be the bridge to translate this good and bring good things from West to East and East to West and create more understanding, a bridge of humanity. So it was my wife who did it, and then one day she invited me to be part of it. Initially I was taking her as a joke, saying, okay, let her do something what she's doing because she's happy, then I can do what I want. But then working in corporate world, I realized that it brought me money, it brought me name and fame, but not happiness, because I was trying to fulfill their objectives and they were not always matching with mine. So when I joined my wife, I was very happy that at least, even though it did not bring me name and fame and money, it brought me satisfaction. I was happy that at least I was trying to be the agent of change, as Mahatma Gandhi would have said. So we started working on an NGO, and then very quickly my wife told me, you know what, Deepak, my challenge is that when I go and tell people not to cut the forest, because we have like 3 years we had no rain or drought, and we all know it's because of deforestation, where people are deforesting for cooking. So when I tell the people not to deforest, the people tell us, ma'am, we agree with you, we should not cut, because we are living in the forest, we know the importance of forest. But what alternative we have, what choice we have? And she said, like, I have no answer for that, because I can never tell a person, don't do that if I don't offer a solution. And you are an energy man, why don't you help me? And I was thus pulled into it, not knowing what I was getting into. And I thought it was very easy, because, when I look at cooking, it's a very simple process, where you just have something that needs to be heated up at a very low temperature, 100, 200 degrees centigrade, and then it gets cooked, boiled, fried and all. So I thought it was very simple. And so I got into solar energy more by chance than by plan. And I was drawn into it because there was a problem which my wife was posed by the people, and then she posed it to me, and I got into it not knowing what I was getting into. But again, very quickly realized that why should I reinvent? Maybe this is a problem not only in India, world over, and I'm sure there are some people who must have thought, applied a mind at it. There was no Google at that time, so I had to go and do some literature survey, and very quickly found that there was a technology called box cooker, which was being promoted in India for the last 30 years. And I looked at box cooker, it was a great technology, very simple, just a insulated box with a glass cover which would let the light go in and not the heat to come out, and then the temperature will rise to 140, and you put your cooking vessels and it will cook. And I was so fascinated, I said, wow, such a simple technology, no moving part, nothing, just trapping the heat. And as simple as that, and also very cost effective. And then to add to that, government was giving subsidy, government was giving them free of charge to the poor, there was microfinance projects available. So I said, great. So maybe people are not using it because they don't know about it. And of course, when you are educated in the West, you are a bit arrogant. You think you have more knowledge than the people have not seen the world. So I thought maybe people don't know about it. So when I went with my wife into the villages to tell people about this box cooker technology which was available, I was very pleasantly surprised, but also shocked to hear from them that they knew the box cooker. Many of them even had it. So when I said, why don't you use it? And then they said they use it. And when I opened the box cookers, I was surprised to find that people are using to put their sari, their clothes, some putting their spices, some using as putting lipsticks and cosmetics. So I said, look, this is not a box to store things, it is a cooker. And they said, no, we know it is a cooker, but the problem is it's too slow. It does not fry. It does not make chapati. So then I realized that there was a technology which was functional but not acceptable because it was not doing what people wanted. And then I remembered of a friend of mine called Dr. Dieter Seifert in Germany, and we used to work in the same company, Wakashemi, and he had shown me his SK14 parabolic dish at that time. But being a city boy, when I had looked at the technology at that time, I thought that this is a technology which will not spread because for me, India was Mumbai. And then in Mumbai, we live in small apartments. Where will you put the cooker? Who will use them? Where you have no. But now having realized and experienced the real India, where there was enough land, there was enough people, and people were willing to work in open, and their life was in open. So I thought, now, wow, this is the technology which will work because they are the people who need it. They have the space. They have the willingness to be in the sun. So I went back to him, and I was very fortunate that he transferred the technology to me free of charge. Not only did he transfer, he even came to India to help us with the technology transfer and adapt it to local conditions. So whatever we talk of this appropriate technology happened on human to human level, where he came and then said, okay, to make this technology the way it is, we can use this material which is available locally, this reflector, this we can manufacture it with this without these machines which we have in Germany. So we had got this technology transfer on human basis. We started manufacturing the cooker. And initially, when I sold, when we started giving out the cookers, they were accepted very willingly because it was something very exciting, very sexy, looked very good, glossy. But also, that was again a crossroad of our life where we suddenly realized that now we have a solution, but now as an NGO, we don't have enough money to give it to people. And unfortunately, people do not have the money to buy it. And then we said, okay, can we not collect money from friends, because who are like us in Germany, many of them were Indians, many of them were Germans, who were very happy and impressed that we had gone back and wanted to do something good. So they had offered us to pay some money every month to continue to do what we want. So we went and wanted to create a budget saying, okay, can you please tell us the list, how much you will pay so that we know how much we have to spend, and based on that we can create our budget and do our activities. And one of my best friends, because of whom I came to Germany, said, Deepak, I'm not going to give you any money. And I said, why? I thought you were my best friend and you know me the best and you trust me. He said, no, I trust you, but I don't like this idea of one of the smartest people I have come in my life and one of the most dedicated people who have gone back, and instead of becoming rich, you have become poor and you come begging for the money. It doesn't, the whole thing doesn't make me happy. I said, but so when I tried to tell him, but that's the way the philanthropy works, where people who are rich, who are blessed, and with thinking people will say, okay, I've been lucky to get what I perhaps have, and maybe I have more than I deserve or I need. I can share it with my brothers or sisters. And then he said, no, you'll see that that's not the way the world works. And then, so there were two ways of doing social work at that time we knew of. One was to go to government, take grants. But to deal with government means you are dealing with people who love paper, who love project proposals, and sometimes who are corrupt, they are very bureaucratic, there is time delay. And we were not cut out for that. Having lived in the West, we did not have that mindset to run after government officials and try to fulfill their dreams and their budgets and their projections. And the other were philanthropists with whom we could go and touch their heart by saying, look, this is what we are doing, and not for us, but for the betterment of the human being. But then they would want to give money for disaster management, for education, for health, for housing, but not for environment, which is so abstract. At that time, climate change and environment was nowhere in picture. And as I said, it was a very firm belief that if you want to make progress, we have to cut some trees and we have to sacrifice a bit of environment, and that can be restored or repaired afterwards. So even that would not have worked. And then my friend gave me an idea. He said, do you know what, Deepak? You are a brilliant engineer. Your wife is a generic engineer. Why don't you create a company and earn your money, and then with your money you can do what you want? So I said, yeah, but what do I do? Because I want to do social work. He says, no, you know the problem, you have a solution, sell it to the people who can afford it, and with that money you can do what you want to do. So that's how we started our social enterprise called Gadhia Solar, to manufacture solar cookers and sell them to the people who could afford it, and with that sort of cross-subsidize and give it to the poor. And we thought it's going to be easy. And initially it was, like, people were very excited. The middle class women, friends who bought it were very surprised and happy to see that there was a technology which was fulfilled their dream. It could fry, it could make chapati. It was so beautiful looking, and it was like a toy showpiece, which talk. But very quickly the newness varied, just like a toy.
Yes.
And after some time they would use it only when some guest would come to show them they have a solar cooker instead of using daily. And when I tried to tell the ladies that now that you have the cooker, I would want you to use them daily because you are the role model for the poor. Because in India we have the system where the maids come to your house and work. So my idea was that for every poor man, the rich man is a model. They also want to have the same lifestyle like a rich. And I thought that if the poor can see a rich man using a solar cooker, one day we'll start using the solar cooker and may want it. And then she said, look, Deepak, I like this idea of solar cooker and all, and but why should I? First thing, I don't cook, my maid cook. Then second thing is, why would a woman want to go into the kitchen, out in the sun to cook? Why can't you bring a technology where the sun comes in the kitchen? And she compared it and provocatively said, Deepak, you men are nice, you want to sit in the comforts of your air-conditioned room, and you want us, the woman, into the sun, bring the sun in the kitchen. And I said, yes, she's right, like, if you really want to solve the problems, then you have to make a technology not only functional and acceptable, also user-friendly. That was a new word which was coming into this.
Yes.
So again, I went back to Dr. Seifert and said, hey, Dieter, technology is great and we are able to make a living out of it, but it's not spreading because with the rich, even though who have it, are not using it and they want the technology to bring the sun in the kitchen. Can we not adapt it to make the kitchen so that your sun comes in the kitchen? And he says, no, Deepak, my technology is a parabola where the focus is in the center of the dish. So you need a technology where your dish can be placed outside and the focus can be inside the kitchen. Go to Wolfgang Schäffler. He's an Austrian physicist living in Germany, working with a Swiss organization called ULOC. And he has a technology which can do that. So he can introduce me to Wolfgang Schäffler. And luckily, Wolfgang Schäffler had been to India and made some solar cookers in some Jesuit institution. And so he also visited us and we became friends. And so he said, like, I would be very glad to offer you the technology and even teach you, just like Seifert. So I always say that this belief that India is the only country which has the monopoly of Gandhi or where only good people are born, it's not true. There are Gandhis everywhere. And I call Wolfgang Schäffler and Dieter Seifert and now Celestino, so many other people who are Gandhis of the world who are willing to do things selflessly without anything in return. So again, he came to us along with his girlfriend and we built the first solar cooker. And then he helped us to indigenize the technology so that it could be made with local material. He trained our people, he built jigs for us. And that's how our journey started. And we built the first Schäffler concentrator at our company so that we could ourselves cook and learn from it and then show it to the people. It did what we wanted. But the problem was, in the process of bringing light in the kitchen, a cooker which was costing $100 is costing $1,000.
Yes.
And even the rich who could afford that, he said, we don't want to spend $1,000 for the cooking. 200, 300, fine. But 1,000 is too much. And then, of course, it had challenges. You required a kitchen to be facing, having a north-facing wall so that your dish can reflect the light through the opening in the kitchen. And it has to have tracking. And then the building should be low enough so that there is no shadow. So it was posing challenges. And then, now that we were running a company, we realized that people who could afford it would not buy it because it was not as what they wanted in form of cost, in form of work, needing extra requirements. And people who needed it can never afford it. Even 100 was too expensive, so 1,000 was out of rule. But being a businessman, we said now we have to shift the market instead of changing the product. Because in trying to adapt the product, we make it more and more expensive and more complex. So we said, which is the market where we could sell? And we realized that there was a very big market in India called midday meal program, where the Indian government was having a program where they were offering free meals to the poor children in the school so that the parents would be incentivized to send their children to the school and then not take them to the farm for labor. So we said, wow, that would be good if we can actually use this Schäffler dishes to install in the schools, and in the school the food can be cooked for the midday meal. So the children get free meal cooked on solar, they get to know the technology. So it was a win-win situation. Of course, it was a big challenge for us to convince the Indian government to suddenly adopt solar cooker and then all that also subsidize it. But we did manage, because I think the idea was good. We were at the right time at the right place and knew the right people. And that's how we started offering community solar cooker, where with one dish we cook for 50 grown-up or 100 children. And it was doing well. And we were very happy. There was a government support. It started with as much as 75% subsidy, where 25% subsidy was given by the German consulate, 50% by the Gujarat state government. So it was sustainable, viable, and our business was growing. And one day we received an inquiry from an NGO called Brahma Kumari in Mount Abu, and there was a German gentleman called Golo. His name is Joachim Pils, and he was looking after the sustainability of this ashram, which teaches meditation, yoga. And then he said, "Look, Deepak, I'm looking for a solar cooker to cook for 1,200 people." And initially we said, "Great, then you buy 12 Scheffler dishes and you can cook for 1,200." And he said, "No, that means I would have to have 12 or 6 cook, very large kitchen. Can we not do it differently?" And so we went to Wolfgang Scheffler, and Wolfgang said, "Look, Deepak, this is what I have done all my life. This is I never wanted to do for institution. That you have done community, it's a good thing enough, but I don't want to make it big and bigger and all. So you work it out. You are a company, you do what you want." So, at that time his knowledge was limited about using the solar cooker, bringing the heat in the kitchen and tracking. Luckily I was working for a German company before I returned to India, a company called HTT. So I went to them and said, "Look, I have a technology where I have a parabolic dish which reflects the light in the kitchen. Now can you give me optical fibers by which actually I bring that light at one spot, and then there is a bundle of wires coming from these 12 dishes at one pot, and I have a huge pot and I'm cooking. And it can still happen in the kitchen or on the ground floor anywhere." But unfortunately there was nothing like light guide what we are talking now. It seems that now that technology is available, but still very expensive. But at that time that was not possible. And Mr. Günther Schmidt, who was the owner of the company, who was like a godfather to me, said, "You know what, Deepak, why do you want to bring light in the kitchen?" I said, "Yeah, because we cook with light." He said, "No, you don't cook with light, you cook with heat." So I said, "Wow, of course I know that you produce, but I need to bring light and then convert that light into heat at one spot, like we do reflection and absorb it at the cooking vessel." He says, "No, actually what we could do is we could actually convert water into steam and bring the steam into the kitchen by piping it. And this is how the world's first solar steam cooking system was developed." So it was a joint venture or a teamwork of Wolfgang Scheffler and his team, my company, the Brahma Kumari team. They contributed a lot because they were the one who taught us steam cooking. And Joachim Pils and Jaisima Bai and other brothers who were there, they all helped us developing solutions. So our company supplied the dishes, and then we did a system integration. The German company HTT supplied us the receiver and the piping and the backup boiler and all. And then the question was, who will pay for it? And Brahma Kumari said they will not be able to pay for it because there was no guarantee it will work. And because they were a public institution, they were raising money. If it doesn't work, then they will be getting the blame that, look, you wasted people money. So we tapped into a German government program of GIZ or GTZ at that time. And they funded the whole project under the pilot project funding. And that is how the world's first solar steam cooking system came up and was built at Brahma Kumari. And to our surprise, and I always say it's blessing, that it worked without any problem. And then it worked so well, and it created waves, and all of a sudden, world's biggest cooking system, solar steam cooking system, everything was new, So, and we were covered by media and all. And then Brahma Kumari themselves said, "Wow, it's working. Now, what we did is a cooker for 1,200 people, but now we want a cooker for 20,000 people." And I was a small company, and I had never planned. I was an NGO, making a company to finance my social activities, and I had never a dream of becoming a bigger company. So I said, "Look, Golo, I cannot do this project because it's too big for me, because now we are talking not of 24 dishes, but we are talking of 84 dishes. And it will be also very expensive, because if I do it, because when I do it, I have to make profit, I have to pay salaries, I have to pay taxes. And now you have a team which can do that. Why don't we do it? I transfer the technology to you and you do it yourself." And this is how, again, with Wolfgang Scheffler and us, we transferred the technology to Brahma Kumari. We made the jigs. They came to our place, they learned how to use the jigs. We transferred the jigs, and they started making it. This is how the world's biggest cooking system to cook 20,000 meals was manufactured based on technology transfer at Brahma Kumari, by Brahma Kumari. And it worked, again. Of course, we had to modify, because every time we do something, you learn. So the first system we did was a closed loop system. We did not produce steam directly, but we actually circulated hot water. And then with that hot water, we went into another heat exchanger and produced steam up there, so that it could be controlled. But then we realized that if you want to circulate water, you require pump. And in villages, electricity is a challenge. So we said, can we not develop a system which is thermosiphon, where you don't have to require continuous pumping, but you fill the water in the header pipe, and then let the water flow in and become hot, and then use the thermosiphon principle. So in technology it is fascinating, but let us not talk about technology. I think technology could be a different session where we can talk of each technology, its plus and minuses. But we did it, and the system was successful. And then one day the Chief Minister of Andhra Pradesh, Chandrababu Naidu, visited Brahma Kumari. And in Andhra Pradesh state, there is a temple called Tirupati Temple, which is the world's largest temple and the second richest temple in the world. And around 30,000 people would eat every day there, because in temple people have the habit, they would go to temple to deity, and after that they want to eat food which is blessed by the god. So they were cooking 30,000 meals, and when he came and saw the system at Brahma Kumari, he said, wow, if you are having it, why don't I have it? Because we are the world's biggest temple, the richest temple. I want something like this. Brahma Kumari said, look, we did it ourselves, but for us, go to Deepak Gadhia, he is the guy, he will transfer the technology to you and you can also do it. So I was invited to Tirupati, and again I offered them that, look, we can transfer the technology like we did for Brahma Kumari. And Tirupati temple said, look, Brahma Kumari is a voluntary organization with people living there, working there, dedicated in their life. But we are a temple which is managed by government. We have people who are working there. We don't have the capability, we have no interest to manufacture and build and all. You supply it. And this is how I was forced to grow up 10 times or 20 times more than what I wanted to be, and then make a system of 106 dishes to cook 30,000 meals per day. And so that was again we kept on breaking our records. So from Brahma Kumari 20,000 we went to Tirupati for 30,000 people. And then there is another temple in Maharashtra called Shirdi Temple, which they came and said, we want to cook for 50,000 people. So we did a cooker for 50,000 people. And we never had to look back. I think that technology of institutional cooking. So we started with domestic, went to community, and then we went into institutional cooking. And that has been very successful. Our company went on to become the world's biggest company. And then of course, as a company, we had to also look at sustainability. And we realized that, look, at present all our clients or buyers are temples. And in temples, they don't look at economics, because it's free money to them. They want to do something because it's spiritual and they believe in it. But my business is not sustainable, because in few years, few months, you have done all the temples. Then what? Now you have a company with hundreds of people working for you. So we said, can we look at other markets? Then of course, as a company, we had to also look at sustainability. And we realized that, look, at present all our clients or buyers are temples. And in temples, they don't look at economics, because it's free money to them. They want to do something because it's spiritual and they believe in it. But my business is not sustainable, because in few years, few months, you have done all the temples. Then what? Now you have a company with hundreds of people working for you. So we said, can we look at other markets? And then we suddenly realized that, okay, anywhere where you're cooking for more than 500 people, our system would be ideal. And that could be all big companies, corporates who are serving free meals into their canteens, or subsidized meals into the canteen. It could be all universities, all colleges, all hospitals, all jails, all armies. And we started supplying to them, So we went on to supply systems as high as the world's largest highest cooking system in Ladakh in Kashmir at 10,000 feet, 3,000 meters, working in minus 30 degrees centigrade. So we also started realizing that these projects are very exciting, because actually you break the myth. A solar system works only when it is hot. We could show that a solar system works on radiation. It has nothing to do with ambient temperature. At even as minus 30 degrees centigrade, the system will work. In the same way, a solar system is not only for cooking, you can actually also do cooling. So we did a very large cooling system for hospital, where we use the steam to do air conditioning for the hospital. And then we said, look, why are we only talking of cooking? Why can we do food processing? So we supplied a system to a food processing company, India's or world's first solar steam food processing company called Tapi Food in Surat, making tutti frutti or oranges and zaf with solar. And then we started offering solar dryers, and we started working on wastewater evaporation and desalination. And we even went and built one solar crematorium with chef-ladish of 50 square meter, where we can burn dead bodies. And when I always like to tell this story, which very clearly shows the difference between knowledge and wisdom. So when you are successful, you think you are wise, but no, you are knowledgeable, you have information, but sometimes it takes time for wisdom to come. So whenever people would come to us to listen or talk to us, understand what we are doing. And now we are not only a company, but we were an NGO creating awareness, telling people about deforestation, water conservation, organic food, cooking, food processing, drying, So we are offering solutions, but at the same time we are offering technologies to do that. And then working with NGOs, with government to subsidize them, help them funding and do that and develop solutions. So we were like a place where people will come and say, we have this problem, can you work with us and can you help us solve it? Or can you guide us, point us, can you train us? And one day a man came, and most of the people who would come, they come with expectations but not any understanding of what they want. So we have to actually explain them the technology. So the easiest way of explaining a concentrator is you take them, you put a piece of paper or a piece of wood in the focus, and it will immediately light up, burn,
Yes.
And people are fascinated. That is a trick which always works.
I do that at home with my SK14, with the kids especially.
Yeah, and so this man, like everyone said, wow. But he did not stop there. He said, Deepak, it's wow. Is it possible to burn dead bodies with? If you can burn wood and paper, you can actually burn dead bodies. And I was shocked. And I'd never heard of such a request or idea, So my first reaction was no. And he said, why no? I said, no. He said, but why? He was a man who was not educated, who could not read and write, but a very wise man, a man who had experienced life. So, and he was also one of our trustee in our NGO. So in India we have this hierarchy of elderly, so you have to respect them for the age and wisdom. So I told him, Kaka means uncle, let us talk about it later. But my answer is no, because we are finding it so difficult to convert people from normal cooking to solar cooking. Now you are telling people from normal burning to solar crematorium, and solar crematorium is a ritual. It is not just burning a dead body, you have so many rituals behind it and belief and all. And just imagine that I put a body for burning, and it burns half and half the body is not burned, and they will put me along with the dead body, because it's a crime to have a half-burnt body.
Yes.
I said technology-wise, we had heard of a solar oven in France where they were having 2000 degrees centigrade and they could melt metal. So we knew that technically it can be done, but whether socially, if it will be acceptable, it's a question. And he said, okay, we'll talk about it. And he went away, and after a few months he came back and said, Deepak, what about solar crematorium? I said, yeah, it's a great idea, but as I told you, the people will not accept it. And he says, here, this is the money, this is the check of 600,000 rupees. I'm placing an order for making a solar crematorium. And I said, look, you are a poor man, I know you. How did you bring this 600,000 people? He said, simple, I collected it from the people. And suddenly it struck me that here was a man who cannot read and write, but he is able to sell an idea, a product which does not exist. And people believed him to even give the money. So I realized that, wow, there is something which is missing. We are always thinking the logical way. Sometimes it works differently. So I asked him, how did you do that? And he said, it was very simple. I said, yeah, okay, the money is great, but will people burn themselves? Because my problem is I have a technology, I develop it, and then no one ever comes to be burned. Then what happens? He says, here, this is a list of 84 people signed by them that they want to go the solar crematorium way. So he showed. There was money available for it, there was a market available for it, people were willing to do. So I asked him how he did that, and he taught me the difference between knowledge and wisdom. For me, knowledge is information and wisdom is what you internalize. So he told me it was very simple. After I heard you, I realized that there was no point of talking with you. We could argue for years. So I said, okay, you are right, will people accept it? No, because it's something new. And then for anything new, there is a resistance. So he said, I made a small model based on what I saw. And I went to a spiritual leader called Satya Sai Baba in South India, who is a very famous spiritual leader. And when I told Baba, in our villages now there is even less and less wood. We have to go more and more far away to collect the wood. And I can see this problem becoming large. And there is this technology which could do that. But will people accept it? And Baba blessed it. And now because it has been blessed by a spiritual leader, there is no resistance. Sure. People said, okay, Baba says it's fine. It's like a command from the God.
Quick question on that: is there due to the rites and the beliefs, is there a time limit by which you have to either bury or cremate or anything? There's no time, because I'm aware in some religions they have to bury them like within 24 hours or something. And
so in India, it was there that normally people will bury it during the day itself when the body dies. They don't like to keep it at night because in those days there was no technology of conservation and all. But now with time and technology and people are adapting to the requirement, But in our case, it was not a problem because that belief was helping us, because then you have to burn the body during the day and not at night. So the sun was there. So we built the first dish, again Wolfgang Scheffler tied up with a company in Baroda, Parsi gentleman, great technocrat, and we developed a 50 square meter dish. And unfortunately, it's a still work in progress. It's been 10 years now, or even 15, but we are not given up. We are still hoping that we will do it. We built it, it works. We even burned small dead parts. There was a friend from Switzerland called Alex who even brought some money and to do the testing and all. But then we also very quickly realized that a solar system will alone not work. It has to be a hybrid because it is connected to religious belief, and a body cannot be burnt, left half burnt. So even if sun is not there, you have to be able to burn it. And if you wanted to do it climate neutral, so we have now made it hybrid with biogas so that the body will be burnt irrespective sun is not there. So this is how we started with small domestic cooking to community to institutional cooking, and then went into different applications from cooling to wastewater evaporation to crematorium to food processing. And I still personally think that there is a great future. Means what we have done is just like scratch the top. It means, but unfortunately now photovoltaic has come, and photovoltaic has taken over, and they are a very organized lobby. They have a lot of funding coming into them. It's a very big business. So they have been able to reduce the cost by 90%. And compared to when we both started, we were cheap. Photovoltaic was very expensive. Now photovoltaic is a lot cheaper. And I think it's a great technology, and we should stop seeing this technology as competing to each other. We are complementary to each other. And I said it is people's right to decide what is best for them. But there are areas which you want to produce electricity, nothing beats photovoltaic. But if you want to produce heat, it's a crime to produce heat with electricity and then in a very inefficient way, and then with technology which is not sustainable, because in the long run you have a disposal problem, manufacturing problem and all. So why not go the most efficient with solar thermal? And I think that awareness will come. The government in between had withdrawn the subsidy because they thought that thermal cookings are not acceptable. There was some teething problem. But I always say it was not the technology that failed. It was the people who failed. So because when the systems were supplied, installed, they worked. They worked for a few years, but then they started getting problems like mirrors would start degrading. So the people had purchased with government support subsidy. Now we want to replace the mirror, government does not give money for replacement. And then people say, oh, it's so much money to replace, I don't want to use it. It dies. And because they have not really paid so much, they prefer not to reinvest into it. We are talking to government, we are talking to NGOs, we are talking to people. We are coming out with technology where you have a larger life of mirror, just like photovoltaic, you should have large life. And now I am a chairman of an Australian company where we are coming with a new technology, where instead of having many small Scheffler dishes, we have only one big dish, because Scheffler dishes was designed to have stationary focus. So it's a perfect technology where nothing in the world can beat it for a fixed focus. We have with us Dr. Jürgen Kleinwester, who is a technology made of flexible foil, which can do that. But he has been able to make only a very small model, and if that happens, that could be another solution for that. So we are working with him also. But at present, among all the existing technologies, the technology which I got fascinated was this big dish, which is a 25-meter dia, and it is double in efficiency than Scheffler. So wherever, like we had installed in our ashram, 100 Scheffler dishes of 12.5 square meter, that means 1,250 square meter, to do 100-ton air conditioning, that is 350 kilowatt air conditioning. But now the same thing can be done with only one dish of 500 square meter, so 500 square meter, so double the efficiency. The footprint is less, so if you want to multiply, you will have to have technology which will not take much space, because there is this constant fight between food and fodder or fuel. The use of land for that is going to be an emerging technology. So I see this big dish as like a windmill, where you just have the dish vertical instead of horizontal, and more efficient, and it can produce very high temperature. So now we have installed a system which can produce 500 degrees centigrade at 50 bar. And then the idea is that if you are able to produce high temperature steam, why not run turbines, produce electricity, and then the steam coming out of the turbine can be used for cooking, food processing, desalination, dehydration, and the heat coming out of that condensing can be used for cooling, for cold storages, air conditioning and all. So it's called tri-generation. And for me, my dream came true when one of the most beloved person in our country, Dr. Abdul Kalam, visited our ashram. Dr. Abdul Kalam, the whole India is very proud of, because he was the one who actually helped India to become a strong country when the whole West had boycotted us to build our own nuclear power plant and to go into the space. And the Western world had said, a poor country like India should not be into it. And then it will start the arms race and also, and then we said, no, who are you to tell us what to do, what is right for us? And then we took a path where we said we will do it irrespective of Western support or not. And Abdul Kalam helped us do that. So he was very popular. And afterwards he was made the president of India. And when he became the president, he's changed his view. Initially, like me, he thought technology is the solution. Yes. Then afterwards, once he became the president, he realized that people is the solution. You have to work with people, for the people. Technology is just a tool. So he started realizing that I cannot make India, and he had written a book, India 2020, and then where he said, I want to make India a developed nation by 2020, and solar energy is going to play a very big role into that. But he had said, I can only help people provided 70% of the people who live in villages also benefit from the technology. See, unfortunately, what has happened is in India, we have made great economic progress. We have been able to really take a very large population out of poverty into middle class. So we have about maybe 20-25% middle class, 5% rich, but 70% people are still poor, 65%. So he said, till I do not touch them, I cannot make a country. I can only bring prosperity, but not the whole lift it. And there is this very famous book from C.K. Prahlad, Bottom of Pyramid, And so Abdul Kalam started talking about empowering people and helping villages. And he realized that till I do not touch villages where 70% of the people live, all my efforts are lost. So he started talking of a concept. It's okay. So he started talking of a concept called Pura, that is providing urban amenities in rural area. So he said, till villages have the same facility like in cities, people are going to migrate. And it's so true now, because I live in a village, I live in an ashram. And when I get up in the morning, I see the whole village becomes empty because people go and work in the field, which are not near the village. And they go and work in the small towns nearby, or they go and work in the cities. So we are now only producing children and food, and both of them is exported. The villages are empty during the day. There are only old people and children and women. And so I realized that he is right. And then while he was in US and talking about it, one of our donor got up and said, Dr. Kalam, whatever you're talking about, why don't you go and visit Muni Seva Ashram? This is an NGO in Baroda. It is exactly what you are talking about. It is an NGO having social care, health care, education, 1,000 acre organic farm, 600 cow, totally sustainable in food, water, energy. And there are people like Dr. Vikram Patel, who is the chairman, and Deepak Gadhia, who have dedicated their life to creating solutions. And so he one day called and said he would like to come. And for us, of course, it was a matter of big honor, that Dr. Abdul Kalam is coming to visit us. And he came. And I say in our ashram, I am the talker, that there are people who do a lot of work and better and bigger work than I do. But they push me when it comes to talking, because I'm a good talker, so whatever. So I was told to explain them the technologies and all. And he looked everything, and then he said, you know what, Deepak, it's great what you are doing here. But my problem or challenge is that whatever we have done is not replicable. You have been able to do in your ashram, you have been able to make it green, clean, the way I want. And but because you have got donations. Because of the good work you do, you get donation. But I have got 650,000 villages. And I want each and every village to become like ashram. And there is not enough money in the world. Can you come out with a business model? How will my villages, the word he used was last mile. I want this technology to do the last mile. And then I remembered that a dichotomy was that people who can afford the technology don't need it, because government provides them everything. And people who need them cannot afford it. And not only afford it, but even cannot use it and how to operate it and all. So that appropriate technology. And he went away, and I always say, he went and slept and I lost my sleep. Because all of a sudden at the end of your life, just when you think that you have done so much and now you have done your share of work, he comes and challenges you and says, look, what you have done is just a model, a prototype. Now it has to be multiplied, and technology alone will not work. It has to have a business case. And luckily, in brainstorming with our team and all, we came and realized that yes, what he is telling is right. See, the challenge is that people who need the technology, they are not bankable. they are not knowledgeable, they are not articulate. They are wise, they are smart, but they don't know the ways of the world. The world works differently. Banks give money to people who can pay them back, who can give guarantees. Poor cannot give that. So the idea was, okay, can we not replicate the model which is in the real world? What do government do when they want to build airports, highways, ports? They call private companies and tell them, look, you build the road, you can collect the taxes, and after you have recovered your money and the profit, you can transfer it back to us. It's a model called BOOT model, build, own, operate and transfer. So I went and told my management and said, look, can we not do a similar model on the BOOT model? Because till now our model was, whenever we needed something for our ashram, we will make a call for the support to our supporters world over, and people will donate money and we can do. So we have the world's best hospital. I will be showing the video about the ashram, which is a 400-bed cancer hospital, ranked 5th best cancer hospital in the world in radiotherapy. So, but I said, can we not do it differently? Can we not call a company to come and do the system? They will take the technical risk, they will take the financial risk, they will operate it, and we will buy from them the energy at a lesser cost than what we buy, so that we have some advantage. And after he has recovered the investment and profit what we have agreed upon, he will transfer it to us. Because if we are able to successfully show the world, then the same model can work in villages. So it is called pay as you use model.
Yes.
And we have the world's first big dish now been installed at our ashram based on that model, where the Australian company has come and installed the dish. We are supplying the steam for cooking, we are supplying steam for laundry, we are supplying steam for sterilization, we are supplying steam for bathing. In the next phase, we are going to do a 1,000-ton air conditioning plant where we will supply chilled water for cooling. And in the next phase, we will do also electricity, heating and cooling. And if that works, we hope that we have a model with which we could take it to villages in India and all over the world, where it's not just technology but livelihood, local economy, local ecology, climate fund, carbon credit. There are so many ways which can add and make that project viable. But this needs to be known, and I was very happy that you yesterday, Luther, made a fantastic presentation where you showed that there is no dearth of good people in the world, and all people are working in their own different level in different technologies. We need to bring them under one umbrella so that we are more effective, that we learn and share with each other what we are doing, like in this conference, and be more organized in approach, press a better advocacy to government, to buyers, to sellers, to technology developers, learning, sharing, caring with each other. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm sorry that the interview must have gone longer than you had wanted.
Oh no, this is beautiful. And I just added one more thing, if we could just go a few more minutes.
Sure.
Is you mentioned the? I'm going to move this one camera over here first. Make sure it's still on. Yes, it is. Okay. So I'm a little closer. You mentioned the last mile problem, and I did not study business, but I recall I worked for a business, a life insurance company. And they had an investment arm where one of the persons I served got a newsletter every week from some big investor out in New York City. And he talked about the last mile problem. And I had never heard of that before, where, it's one thing to ship 5,000 things on a container ship, then it gets to Long Beach in Los Angeles, and then 500 of them go to Denver, and then you get down to those two that are in Binford, North Dakota. It's 500 miles from there. That's the last 500 mile problem, because you're spending all that gas just to get this package to one person. What I might be wrong, but the folks that are doing the photovoltaic direct to induction cookers, for instance, they almost all of them have come up with, well, we're going to have a battery, and so you can have a charger for cell phones, and so and lights, so kids can still study at night, And I thought that eliminates the last mile problem. You just get that to them, and you don't have the last mile of the electric grid that has to get to them. And I have this is maybe not a very righteous way to think, but I think of the electric company finally arriving at a village where, okay, we're going to hook you up now, and they all tell them, thank you, but no, I don't need it.
If that happens, that would be ideal.
Yeah.
But again, we were invited by one of our top bureaucrat in the state of Gujarat, and saying, look, Deepak, what you are talking about, we would like, there is an island and Indian government has taken upon the challenge of electrifying each and every village. So, but this being an island is very difficult to electrify because it's an island, and to take a submarine cable there will cost us millions, and there are geographical challenges and all. So why don't you go and find out what are their needs and convince them and tell them that we can do that, and let them not worry about the cost. We will do that. So I and our chairman Dr. Patel went there, and we went and talked to the villagers and explained to them how they can now cook with solar. There would be smaller sort of photovoltaic which will provide them lighting, and then there would be solar dryer where can do dehydration. The whole idea was to sell them the vision, and to our surprise and shock, they said they don't want it. And when we asked why, I think we understand why, because they said, you know what you are now telling us is you are giving us a piecemeal solution where you can cook with solar cooker, but which is limited in time and service, electricity which is restricted, we have a modular but expensive, and life problem with bacteria and all. Once you supply us this, we are then written off. That means you are electrified for the next to the whole life. Now we will never get the benefit of this getting a grid power, because we don't want only power for lighting and fan. We want computers, we want fridges, we want industry, and this is not going to address that. So I think these decentralized solutions of having a photovoltaic panel and producing heat for cooking at the same time, that heat for lighting and all, that's great for a village at present who have nothing, and it could be a starting point. But it should not stop there. You know, in the end, they will also want to be doing the same thing what we are doing, and we should not deprive of them of that. And I personally, while we are working on this boot model, had a very great experience of doing a project in a very different way. So when we did the world's biggest cooking system in Tirupati temple, the villagers nearby, they came and said, you know what, you are helping God. Who is God? He has all the money in the world. We need the technology. You are giving it to them. Why don't you do something for us? And we said, yeah, we can, but how do we help you? We have the technology, the cooker, buy it. He says, I cannot afford it. And then we said, we are too poor. We are not Bill Gates to be able to donate it. And I personally believe that donation is not a right thing. You know, so because anything you get free has no value, and then it will end up after a few months again in a toy because they have not paid for it. Whether he works or doesn't care. So it's good for headlines and good for coming on TV, but not sustainable. And we stopped at that. And then luckily we had a government official, because at that time the Tirupati project was subsidized by Indian government. 50% of the money was paid by the government, 50% by the temple. So the government official, Mr. Jagdishwar Reddy, was with me. He had come with me to Austria. We had come for this COP meeting in Bonn, and then we had an NGO meeting in Austria. And in Austria, they asked, we would like to support some project in villages. So Mr. Reddy said, Deepak, can we do a project in one village? You said you don't have the money for doing the solar cooker, but they want a solar cooker. We can fund them. Government will fund them a bit, and the Austrians will pay them a bit. It was a project with school children of Austria. So we decided to do a project. And they said, okay, but we will not give you free. It will be subsidized, but you have to pay for it. And then to our shock, they said, you know, why should we pay for something which is free for us? Because for us, wood is free. It's our survival, you know. So, and I agree with them, you know, it's not that they are right, but what choice do they have? So then I said, what do I do? So then we realized that if you want to bring a technology, then we will have to not just do it on microfinance basis, because Mr. Muhammad Yunus got a Nobel Prize for this microfinance project of Grameen Bank, which is a great project where you actually show that a poor man is bankable. He is going to return the money, which is a great, and he proved it by getting 99% of money given to a loan without collateral, coming back and then creating this whole beautiful system in banking, successful bank. But it will not work, because the poor people will only do where they have some saving, not necessity. So then we said, what do we do? And then what we did was we tweaked the program and said, this is not a solar cooker, this is an income generation tool. We'll teach you how to make bread, biscuit, cake and everything, and then you pay from your profit, not from your pocket. So that was our slogan. And with that we did a first smoke-free village in the world, where we have 23 biogas plants and 26 solar cooker, and the whole village purchased a solar cooker based on they had to pay every month after the profit we made. But then our work increased. We did not stop by supplying the cooker and walk away. We had to then teach them how to use it, we have to teach them how to make products, we have to teach them how to pack, we have to teach them how to price, we have to teach them how to sell. But being an NGO, we could do that, but a company cannot do that. So I think there is this effort needed of NGOs, government, academic world, people on the ground to come together and understand each other, communicate, talk to each other, and work out solutions. Because everyone tries to take a stand. I know it, and that's how it works.
It's a single-use system, but you found that, like I found as a community organizer, you bring people together over the breaking of bread, and you learn what their needs really are,
Yeah.
what their priorities are.
Right.
And what one thing that we found, like Sharon Clausen and those that design solar cookers, is we call it solarosis, where it's this condition where we see something and we say, can we turn that into a solar cooker?
Yeah.
Well, the people you have worked with, they see the solar cooker and they say, but can it do this or that or the other?
Yeah.
And so you end up with adding the biogas or adding the feature where you can have it generate electricity or heat, and the crematorium idea. You know, who else? I would not have thought of that.
You don't need one, exactly.
Yes, and if you don't make those connections, it'll never happen. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it's a beautiful thing. Well, great. Well,
Thank
thanks
you.
so much. This is wonderful. And if I have any questions, we'll email you. But
Sure, please.
Yes. Okay.
Thank you, dear.
Yes.
Jai Krishna.
Okay.